guy thought I was a cop right away, so he shuffled across the street right up to me.
Nick Nolte has been arrested 4 times in his life. The 2002 mugshot made him a legend. But in March 2025, a new photo surfaced that nobody saw coming. This time, it wasn't drugs, it wasn't alcohol, and it wasn't even a crime. At 84 years old, Nick Nolte walked into a police station voluntarily, and what he confessed shocked everyone who knew him. From living on the streets to nearly dying on film sets, his life has always been extreme. But this latest mugshot tells a story nobody expected. Nick Nolte came into the world on February 8, 1941, just before sunrise in Omaha, Nebraska. It was freezing outside, the kind of cold that makes doors stick and breath hang in the air. Temperatures had dropped to 15 degrees, and inside Methodist Hospital, a boy weighing 8 pounds 3 ounces was delivered by Dr. Samuel Henderson. His father, Franklin, had been a football player back in the 1930s at Iowa State. They called him Truck because he was 6'2", 220 pounds, and didn't just block defenders, he ran them over. Nick's mother, Helen, worked at Brandeis department store as a buyer, pulling in $18 a week. The family rented a little house on Dodge Street for $35 a month, modest and barely enough space, but it was home. Their roots in Nebraska went back to 1887, when Franklin's grandfather came from Bavaria with $47 in his pocket and a toolbox in hand. When World War II started, Franklin had to juggle 2 roles. By day, he coached football at Benson High School. At night, he worked at Martin Bomber Plant, assembling parts for B-26 aircraft for 65 cents an hour. Life wasn't gentle. Franklin believed in discipline the way the military taught it. Early mornings, push-ups at dawn, and ice-cold showers to build toughness. From 1943 to 1947, they moved constantly. Never stayed anywhere more than 18 months. Nick remembered the tiny flat above Kowalski's Meat Market in Council Bluffs best. He slept on a fold-out couch and picked up Polish curse words from the butcher downstairs. During the harder months when Franklin was out of work, Helen cleaned houses for $2 a day, and Nick wore second-hand clothes donated by the Methodist Church. That's when he started hating rules and the people who made them. Everything shifted one hot July afternoon in 1946. Nick was 5. He found a matchbook near the meat shop and walked into Farmer Jensen's barn just 200 yards away. Curiosity turned into disaster. He lit some hay to see how high the flames would go. They went too high. By the time fire trucks got there, the entire barn, 40 feet wide, 60 feet long, was gone. It wasn't just wood that burned. Jensen lost $200 in equipment, 47 hay bales, and 3 chickens. Headlines screamed, "Boys match play costs family fortune." Franklin had to take on extra jobs for 8 months to pay back what Jensen demanded. Nick got locked inside for a month and spent every afternoon doing chores on Jensen's farm. School didn't bring peace either. At Kingsley Elementary in Waterloo, Nick was always 2 steps ahead or 2 steps sideways. C's and D's in math and English, perfect scores in PE. He could throw a football 35 yards by the time he was 9. Coach Miller saw him play and said the kid had something special. But Nick didn't care for classrooms. He skipped school 47 times in 5th grade. One Tuesday, police found him down at the Union Pacific rail yards, watching trains. Said he was learning more there than in math class. Teachers saw the pattern. He could memorize football plays after hearing them once, but couldn't sit still long enough to finish a worksheet. At home, a new tension was building. Helen saw something different in Nick. He would tell stories at night, long, winding adventures about cowboys in space and battles on Mars. She started writing them down. Paid $3 a week from her antique sales to get him into Saturday drama classes at the Omaha Community Playhouse. It was their secret. Franklin didn't find out until months later when he discovered a theater program in Nick's coat. He erupted, called acting a joke for men who couldn't do real work, threatened to send Nick to military school. Helen stood her ground. It tore the house in two. For months, Nick lived between his father's ideas of masculinity and his mother's quiet belief in creativity. That split never really healed. In 1955, Nick started at West Side High School in Omaha. 14 years old and already hardened by life, he became the football team's kicker. He played rough and intense, carrying the same edge that would later define his screen presence. But he didn't follow the rules. Never did. His energy was volcanic, great for the field, dangerous for the classroom. Then, in 1958, things changed again. He transferred to Benson High and joined the drama club. At 17, he found something different on stage. Theater gave him structure, but also room to breathe. His performances were raw and real, sometimes even chaotic, but people couldn't look away. That same year, everything he'd built in sports came crashing down. He was caught sneaking beer before football practice and drinking it during the session. They expelled him. Just like that, his athletic path ended. He had to finish school somewhere else, disconnected and angry, but also wide open to new directions. The pain of losing football drove him deeper into performance, and that same restlessness, the same recklessness, would come back again. By 1962, when he was 21, Nick made his biggest mistake yet. He started selling fake draft cards. With the Vietnam War building up, these cards helped other young men dodge service by faking their age. He made $2,400 in 3 months. But one of the buyers was a federal agent. They arrested him in Phoenix, caught him with 47 cards, official stamps, and nearly $2,000 in cash. He faced up to 45 years in prison and $75,000 in fines. Because he was young and it was his first offense, the sentence was suspended. 5 years probation. But he could never serve in the military again. That left a mark on him. Guilt and a deep connection to people who felt outside the system. He graduated high school in 1959 and went to Arizona State University on a partial football scholarship. Then switched to Eastern Arizona College. He played 3 sports there: football, basketball, and baseball. He was good, naturally talented, but his grades kept slipping. He took some theater classes on the side, slowly moving toward what would become his career. But eventually, he failed out. He was too wild, too distracted, and too pulled between what he could do and what he really wanted. At Pasadena City College in 1960, things spiraled. Nick found alcohol and never looked back. He raided frat houses for beer, drank in the morning, missed 47 drama classes out of 65. Twice he was found passed out in the library. He finally dropped out in May 1961, $847 in debt, and left a trail of broken furniture in his dorm room. Later that year, he went back to Arizona State and tried to revive his football dreams. But in the 3rd week of practice, he tore his ACL. Back then, that was the end of the road. He wandered into the campus theater and auditioned for a play. He had no training, but his raw performance stunned the director. When he played a criminal in the Threepenny Opera, other actors were genuinely scared of him. In March 1962, his draft card scam unraveled completely. He was caught, charged, and hit with massive potential prison time. But again, luck or grace intervened. Probation, not prison. But that brush with the law made him see everything differently. From that point, he carried a sense of being on borrowed time. He enrolled at Stella Adler Academy in 1963, paid $120 a month to study with the best. But the match didn't fit. Adler thought he was too rough for Shakespeare, and too crude for Tennessee Williams. One day, during a Chekhov scene, a teacher said he belonged in cowboy films, not serious theater. Nick exploded, flipped a desk, shouted at everyone, and stormed out. That was his last day. But those few months stuck with him. Emotional memory, physical honesty, the kind of stuff that doesn't leave you. In 1965, he landed a lead role in Requiem for a Heavyweight in Phoenix, played a washed-up boxer named Mountain Rivera. The audience saw a man unraveling on stage. A critic wrote that he didn't act the part, he became it. But backstage, the chaos hadn't stopped. One night after too much beer and whiskey, he vanished. The show got canceled, but he still got paid $275, his first check as a professional actor. Nick Nolte wasn't supposed to be the face of beauty products, but in 1972, a national Clairol ad changed everything. He was 31, in jeans and an open shirt, sitting next to blonde model Ann Powers on a log. That image didn't just sell hair lightener, it sold authenticity. His rugged, natural look was the opposite of the plastic-perfect male models of that time. People noticed. Casting agents noticed. That one campaign, Summer Blonde, pushed him out of obscurity and onto every magazine rack across America. By the time his face appeared on actual Clairol product boxes, Nolte had accidentally begun his Hollywood journey. That rough-around-the-edges charm would soon become his brand. Television came next, but not with fireworks. Just steady, gritty work. In 1973, he showed up in a forgotten police drama Griff as a football player accused of murder. Then it was Barnaby Jones in 74 and 75, and a couple of TV movies like Winter Kill and The California Kid. He wasn't famous yet, but you could feel something brewing. While others chased fame in LA, Nolte spent 3 years at the Old Log Theater in Minnesota. Regional theater, cold nights, cheap coffee. But it worked. He practiced his craft quietly, while TV trained him in camera presence. There's a rumor he got kicked off Days of Our Lives for swearing too much, but no one can confirm it. Doesn't even matter. The raw energy was always there. While the TV roles piled up, Nolte stayed connected to the stage. In 1972 and 1973, he acted in the last pad at 2 different theaters, Southwest Ensemble and Contempo. He didn't just memorize lines, he lived them. Theater in the early 70s was messy, emotional, personal. Boundaries blurred. Everyone dated everyone. There were whispers about him and Shelley Winters, but again, just whispers. What's certain is that he poured himself into those roles. Method acting was no longer a technique, it was his lifestyle. Then came Rich Man, Poor Man in 1976. That's the moment. That's the show that changed it all. Nolte played Tom Jordish, a bruised, poor, working-class boxer trying to fight his way out of his past. He trained hard. The boxing scenes were brutal and real, not staged. He did most of the stunts himself. Blood, sweat, bruises. The miniseries aired in February, and America couldn't look away. For the first time, Nick Nolte was a household name. He earned an Emmy nomination and proved that he wasn't just a rugged face. He was a serious actor with a deep well of pain and defiance under the surface. His method acting only grew more intense after that. For the 1986 film Down and Out in Beverly Hills, he took things to extremes. To play a homeless man, he became one. He lived on the streets of LA, slept on sidewalks, didn't shower for weeks, and ate dog food. He tried to get into a shelter but was turned away. After just 7 hours outside, he said his brain started slipping. His co-star, Bette Midler, was revolted, but it worked. He looked and smelled like the character. No Hollywood trickery, just full immersion. He later did the same for The Good Thief in 2002. taking actual drugs to understand addiction. That line between character and self was getting thinner and thinner. Even before that, things got wild. In 1975, during the filming of Return to Macon County, Nolte lost control. He stole two identical 1957 yellow Chevrolets used in the film and went joyriding. First one ended up in a ditch on July 15th, costing $12,000 in damage. 3 days later, he crashed the backup car through a wooden fence, racking up $8,500 more in damage. Production halted. Director Richard Compton had to find new cars. The budget was blown by $23,000. That was Nick's first big film gig. He became Hollywood's wild man before he even had a real career. 2 years later came The Deep, an underwater thriller shot in Bermuda. He starred opposite Jacqueline Bisset. They hated each other at first. On August 23, 1977, Nolte refused to shoot a love scene with her, calling her a prima donna. He walked off for 3 hours. The producer had to bribe him with $15,000 to come back. Then, somewhere during that 16-week shoot, things flipped. The hate turned into a steamy affair. Nolte later admitted he picked fights with her because he thought she was too polished. Their relationship became so chaotic, the crew started betting on which one would quit first. The movie made over $100 million and became one of the year's biggest hits. But off camera, it was toxic. In North Dallas 40, 1979, Nolte's addiction to realism almost killed him. Playing an aging quarterback addicted to painkillers, he decided to use the real thing: Percodan, Demerol, codeine. During filming from October 15, 17, he took real opioids. On October 18th, he collapsed on set. Paramedics rushed him to Baylor University Medical Center. His blood pressure had crashed. They gave him naloxone to reverse the overdose. The director kept filming. Those drugged-out scenes, they weren't acting. They were real. The production paused for 4 days. Nolte later said it was terrifyingly real. But it also opened the door to his own long-term struggles with addiction. In 1980's Heartbeat, Nolte played Neil Cassidy, the Beat Generation icon. He didn't just act manic, he became manic. He took Benzedrine, real amphetamines, for 3 straight weeks. By day 18, he was hallucinating, speaking in poetry, paranoid. During a scene on February 12th with Sissy Spacek, he launched into a 7-minute drug-fueled monologue that wasn't in the script. The director used 4 minutes of it in the final cut. At one point, Nolte locked himself in his trailer, convinced the crew were FBI agents. The film bombed, earning less than $1 million, but his performance became the stuff of legend. By 1982, Nolte was spiraling deeper. While filming 48 Harders, his drinking hit dangerous levels. During the San Quentin scene on November 8th, his blood alcohol level was 0.19% in the morning. Filming had to stop. He slurred, forgot lines, fell out of frame. Eddie Murphy, just 21, was furious and almost quit. Paramount brought in a full-time sobriety monitor. Nolte still drank between takes, vodka and orange juice. But strangely, that tension made the movie better. The grumpy, slurring white cop and the fast-talking black hustler worked on screen. That chaos turned 48 Harders into a $78.9 million hit and kicked off the entire buddy cop genre. Nick Nolte didn't just act. He vanished into his roles, sometimes to a terrifying degree. When he played the teacher Alex Ruddy in Teachers, he hated how the original suicide scene felt fake. He'd been through depression himself in the early 80s and said the script made it look clean when it wasn't. So, he changed it. He took a real razor, made sure the set was disgustingly real, and acted out a scene where he actually cut his wrist. Not for real, but close enough to disturb everyone watching. He didn't come out of character between takes. He paced and muttered to himself about how schools were broken. Even the director later admitted it was too much and had to tone it down during editing. The film made $27 million, but no one talked about the education message. Everyone just remembered how real Nolte had looked when he broke. 2 years later, he went even deeper. For Down and Out in Beverly Hills, Nolte played a homeless man. To prepare, he actually lived on the streets. Cardboard, dumpsters, no showers, nothing fake. He dropped 23 pounds and walked onto set, every day reeking of the street. It wasn't a costume. Bette Midler couldn't stand to be near him during their scenes and asked for a body double. The director had to bring in giant fans just to clear the air. His fingernails were black. His hair was greasy. The wardrobe team gave up trying to match what Nolte had become. The film made $62.1 million and became Disney's highest-grossing R-rated movie at the time. But it took him 6 months to feel like himself again. Then came The Prince of Tides, and that one cut even deeper. To play Tom Wingo, a man in therapy, Nolte went through real hypnotherapy sessions with a doctor in Beverly Hills. He didn't expect to uncover buried memories, but he did. Abuse, basements, things he hadn't faced. He couldn't sleep. He drank a bottle of whiskey a day just to get through the shoot. Streisand, who directed and co-starred, brought in a therapist to be on set because she could see he was unraveling. His breakdown scenes were done in one take because he wasn't pretending. The pain was real. The movie made nearly $75 million. He got an Oscar nomination. But he said it didn't mean anything because what he went through off-camera was worse than anything the audience would ever see. Around the same time, affliction brought something else out of him: rage. He studied violent police cases to play Wade Whitehouse and ended up mimicking his character a little too closely. One day at home, while rehearsing a scene, he punched a mirror so hard it shattered. Blood everywhere. He needed 12 stitches. He didn't even remember doing it. The security footage showed him completely blacked out for 10 full minutes. His hands were often bruised. He flinched at sudden noises. The movie didn't do well at the box office, only $565,000, but his performance shook people. They didn't know how close it was to real life. His relationship with Streisand didn't survive either. During a love scene in The Prince of Tides, she asked for 17 different takes of one kiss. Nolte snapped. He accused her of being controlling. She said he was drunk and unprofessional. They screamed at each other for 45 minutes, while the crew tried to disappear behind the lights. After that, they avoided filming scenes together when they could. Wide shots used body doubles. They never promoted the film together. He later told a magazine that working with her felt like being smothered. Streisand admitted the tension nearly ruined the whole movie. In Lorenzo's Oil, he was supposed to play a father watching his son suffer from ALD. Nolte didn't just act grief. He met real parents, talked to them, absorbed their pain. When he broke down on camera, it wasn't scripted. His tears came out of nowhere, and they never stopped. His co-star, Susan Sarandon, cried off camera too. No one on set could breathe. The director struggled to manage him, unsure where Nick Nolte ended and the character began. Then there was I'll Do Anything, the musical that became a disaster. Test audiences hated the song so much they were all pulled out. Nolte, already going through his own personal issues, ad-libbed a scene where he screamed at extras with such rage that it felt too real for a family movie. That one scene alone pushed the production $2.3 million over budget. People whispered that Nolte and others tried to destroy bootleg copies of the original song so no one would ever see how bad it had gotten. By the time he reached Mulholland Falls, he was exhausted, both physically and mentally. Playing a battered detective, he broke his hand punching a wall during a scene. 2 bones shattered. He refused to stop filming. He wrapped his hand up, pushed through fight scenes, and didn't take any painkillers because he didn't want to dull the edge. The injury got infected, swelled up so badly it was visible on screen. His co-stars were horrified. His hand looked like it didn't belong on a human body. Then came U-Turn. Working with Oliver Stone wasn't easy. Nolte claimed the set was chaos, that Stone was coked out during night shoots in the desert. They fought over a nude scene Nolte refused to do. He said Stone wasn't in the right state to direct. For 3 days, Nolte locked himself in his trailer and refused to come out unless the director got tested. Sean Penn had to play peacekeeper. Eventually, the scene was rewritten, costing another $180,000. You can see the tension in the final film. It's not just acting. It's uncomfortable because it's real. Nick Nolte was supposed to make his big comeback in The Good Thief, premiering in Toronto in September 2002. He played Bob, an aging gambler addicted to heroin, trying to pull off one last heist in Monte Carlo. Just days later, on September 11th, Nolte got arrested on Pacific Coast Highway, high on GHB. The timing couldn't have been worse. Because of probation, he couldn't travel. That meant no press tours, no festival circuits, no interviews. Even though critics praised his raw performance, he couldn't stand in front of anyone to talk about it. Director Neil Jordan later called it a missed Oscar chance. Nolte had put so much of his real addiction into the character that he handcuffed himself to a bed for 3 days just to film a withdrawal scene. But the world never got to fully see him redeem himself. Then came The Painted Veil in 2006. Nolte was 65, playing a doctor in 1920s China during a cholera outbreak. Most actors would have faked the language and let stunt doubles handle the risky parts. Nolte didn't. He learned Mandarin. He swam in real Chinese rivers even though doctors warned him the water was unsafe. Within days, he got violently ill, dropping 18 pounds and needing IV drips between scenes. He kept going. Naomi Watts later said it was almost scary how far he pushed himself. He even drank the water his character would have had to, as if pretending wasn't enough. In Warrior, released in 2011, Nolte played a broken father trying to reconnect with his sons. One scene, just a conversation in a hotel room, turned into something more. Nolte started crying. Not movie crying. Real, unstoppable, shaking sobs. He kept going for 6 minutes while the camera rolled. Director Gavin O'Connor called it the most real thing he'd ever seen on set. Nolte didn't want it in the final cut. He said it was too raw, too personal. But it stayed. Tom Hardy didn't break character either. He just comforted him. No script could have planned that. 2 years later in Parker, Nolte was 72 and still refusing stunt doubles. He was running through a narrow alley in Louisiana when he hit his shoulder on a fire escape. The sound of the dislocation was caught on audio. He kept going another 30 seconds before collapsing. It tore ligaments, required surgery, and shut production down for weeks. Still, he came back in a brace and finished every action scene himself. Fast forward to The Golden Voice, released in early 2025. Nolte played Barry, a homeless veteran forming an unlikely friendship with a street singer. While shooting in Philadelphia, he began improvising lines, personal, unscripted things about aging and losing friends. One line about his generation disappearing wasn't in the script. It was him, grieving the real deaths of Robert Forster and Brian Dennehy. The director rewrote scenes around what Nolte was saying. This time, the role wasn't just a character. It was him, reflecting everything he'd become. But his on-screen performances only tell part of the story. In 1961, Nolte was arrested for forging a draft card. He avoided Vietnam, but felt guilty for the rest of his life. He said it made him feel incomplete. That guilt led to his first run with amphetamines in college. While others went to war, he took pills to quiet the shame. That moment sparked a 40-year addiction. His personal life was equally chaotic. In 1978, his ex-wife, Sheila Page, filed a lawsuit demanding $1 million, claiming he'd left her behind for Hollywood. She brought evidence, receipts, witness accounts, names. It painted a picture of Nolte morphing from husband to womanizing star. Just a few years later, his second marriage ended after a stillbirth in 1983. The baby girl died at 7 months. Nolte stopped talking. He started drinking a bottle of whiskey a day. His wife said he became unrecognizable, hiding bottles and disappearing for days. His third marriage to Rebecca Linger fell apart after he cheated during the Prince of Tides. She had him followed. Private investigators delivered proof, photos, hotel bills. She later claimed he screamed at their toddler during a juice spill so violently that the child crawled under a table. Courts ordered supervised visits. He had to go through anger management and addiction recovery just to see his son. Then there was Deborah Winger. Their short, explosive relationship in the 80s made tabloid history. They fought during rehearsals, broke dishes in restaurants, and once had an argument so bad that Nolte threw a script at her face. She responded with a wine glass. Staff had to separate them. They were even banned from Spago. His turning point came in 2007. That's when his daughter Sophia was born to Clytie Lane. Nolte was 66. He got sober. For the first time, he said he had a reason not to drink. He replaced the flask in his pocket with a photo of her. He started gardening at 5 a.m., reading with her after school, cooking dinner at night. He even put Sophia in a movie with him, Head Full of Honey. She earned $50,000 from it. But more than money, she gave him structure. At 84, Nolte now lives quietly in Malibu. He's worth $75 million, drives a 15-year-old Prius, and spends most days in his garden. He avoids parties, fame, and most interviews. He only takes film roles that interest him. His most recent is a psychological thriller with Jennifer Lawrence. It's his first major film in 7 years. In 2018, he wrote a memoir called Rebel. It didn't sugarcoat anything. He admitted he hated working with Julia Roberts, called her fake, and detailed his $50,000 a month cocaine habit. He once snorted heroin by mistake. Nearly died. One time in 1987, he even sat in his garage with the engine running, ready to end it all. He didn't. After the 2002 arrest that gave the world that wild-haired mugshot, he tried to recover. He held AA meetings at his Malibu home, relapsed in 2005, drank to deal with the loneliness. He said fame is isolating, that it made him drink more. But when Sophia came into the world, that changed. By 2018, he had nearly a decade of sobriety behind him.